My salutations to Shri Sadguru Yogi Nareyana Thathaya. Satcharitra of Shri Sadguru Yogi Nareyana Thathaya of Kaiwara. Chapter 6. Shri Narayanapa has inherited his father's business, and since he belongs to the Balija community, he has to travel to neighboring villages to sell bangles, flowers, turmeric, vermilion, toe rings, mangalia, necklaces, and other wares. In those days in India, any chaste housewife allowed only 2 people to hold her hands, her husband and the bangle seller. The bangle seller is respected like her father, who in turn regards her as his very mother while putting bangles on her wrists. Since Shri Narayanapa sells bangles, he travels to a lot of neighboring villages to sell them. Whenever he visits any village with his wares, the women and housewives in that village gather to welcome him with great affection. When he stepped in, they would lay out a mat, make him comfortably seated, pay respects to the Mallara, sit down across from him, and hold out their hands for him to put the bangles on. While trying the bangles on their hands, Narayanapa visualized the Supreme Mother in every housewife. It was as if the goddess Parvati herself held out her hands for his bangles. With his spiritual ecstasy of seeing the goddess, he would address his customers with the same respect and devotion. The housewives held him in equally high esteem. They were grateful for the opportunity to put on bangles with the assistance of such an exalted soul. As a matter of fact, Narayanapa never considered it a business done for livelihood and material benefits. To him, it was another way of communicating with the Supreme Mother through those chaste housewives. He was content no matter what the business yields were like. Of course, his attitude towards business was destructive. He would simply put bangles on any outstretched hands but never insist on payment. He never quoted a price in the first place. He would accept whatever the customer felt like giving and dedicate it to Lord Krishna. Some of the housewives were canny. They would either request postponement or promise to pay later alone with old dues. In either case, his response was the same, Krishna Arpanam. Often, he would forego it, saying, "Why come again? Consider it given to the Lord." In that way, the business was not conducted and was getting worse day by day. Actually, spirituality and business never go together. Although business should be fair, it cannot be impractical. If not done with a view to profit, any business will fail. Narayanapa was always obsessed with divine philosophy, which pervaded his business. The profit motive was sadly absent. Similar incidents happened with Sri Guru Raghavendra Swami. He used to teach his students for free instead of asking for fees. Even his family life was not that great. Great souls have always walked over the challenges of life, which is why they have reached the divine stage and are called great saints or Sadgurus. It was no wonder that there was no correspondence between his business earnings and the way his wife ran the house. She was never prudent or resourceful. When the earnings were good, she would, of course, be very pleased. She would spend the money on wasteful extravagance by preparing too many unnecessary dishes. When short of money, she would complain at him and rebuke him, to the knowledge of everyone around. All the groceries have run out. When you are unable to feed the family, why have a wife? In spite of the public harassment, Narayanapa never talked back. If anything, he felt that the public's reproach was well-deserved because of his inability to earn enough money. He remained calm and considerate towards the shrewish wife. He cherished a particular affection for his daughter, Madama, the love of his life. She, too, had great love for him. Some of the neighbors were trying to provoke him to revert back to his wife Muniama, but Narayanapa would simply smile and say, "My wife is, to be sure, a nice person, only she aspires to better living conditions. She has great affection for me and the children. Never mind her annoyance." With these words, he ignored the comments of the neighbors. As ever, he never talked back at her. In all fairness, Muniama was never at fault. She was not unreasonable. All she wanted was a decent life in society, a good education, and a bright future for the children. Apart from her impatience, she was also a responsible housewife and a congenial neighbor. She engaged guests and visitors with genuine hospitality. She never saw off any visiting woman without honoring her with a bunch of bangles. It is a customary tradition in India to honor housewives and other ladies with bunches of bangles, flowers, vermilion, and turmeric. Evidently, there was a method to her madness. The family was living from hand to mouth, and her husband was naive and nonchalant. There was no other motive in her apparent grouse than to make him see reality and be practical in doing business. If Kaikeyi had not foiled the coronation of Sri Rama and sent him on exile, the very avatar would not have been justified, the evil onces would not have been obliterated, universal peace and virtue would not have been resorted to, and the valor of Sri Rama would not have been highlighted. In this light, there was probably an obscure purpose to Muniama's behavior. It would be known only with time to what noble revelations the bovine unrest was going to lead. As ever, Narayanapa was tolerant of the tongue lashing from Muniama. With unwavering devotion, he continued with his service to Amora Narayanan Swami. For anything to turn out, the synergy of context, time, and divine grace was inevitable. In the case of Narayanapa, it seemed that the timing was not yet right for liberating the devotee from worldly entanglements.